Hello, this is Chef John from foodwishes.com with grilled Caesar chicken. That's right, we've chickened the salad. Now we're going to salad the chicken. And yes, I realize people have been using salad dressings as marinades for grilled meats for a long time. But we're not going to use a salad dressing here. Okay, we're going to use the same ingredients that go in a Caesar dressing, but we're going to use a lot more of them. As in way, way more. And that really does change everything. So with that, let's go ahead and get started by tossing some sliced garlic in a mixing bowl. And not a little bit of garlic, a lot of garlic. Followed by an equally impressive amount of anchovy fillet. And then to that we will add some salt and freshly ground black pepper, which we could add at any point. But I'm going to toss it in now because it's going to help with the next step, which is the smashing and the mashing. And for this, I like to use a potato masher, which may or may not be the best tool, but apparently it's the best tool for me, since that's what I use every time, and it seems to work out very well. Right, for smaller amounts, I've used the back of a fork. But when we're smashing and mashing this much, you might want something a little more substantial. And we really don't have to mash this down until it's super smooth. But to activate that garlic and bring out those really strong flavors, we will want to smash and mash this until it looks something like this. At which point we'll stop and add the rest of the ingredients, which just like a Caesar salad will include some Dijon mustard, as well as, believe it or not, 1 egg yolk. And of course, anytime I do an egg yolk in a video, it will almost always have some weird looking thing attached, which this time was a little red spot, which I've been told is no problem, but I went ahead and yanked it off anyway. And I continued on with some freshly squeezed lemon juice, and I'm using some Meyer lemons here, which are a little sweeter than regular lemons. So if you use those, I have no problem with you tossing in a teaspoon of sugar right here, just for a little tiny touch of sweetness. But either way, after the lemon, we'll want to do a little bit of oil, which I did with half olive oil and half regular vegetable oil, just for something a touch more neutral. And then we will finish up with our secret surprise ingredient, some grated Parmesan cheese. Oh yeah, the real stuff, Parmigiano Reggiano. And then we'll take a whisk and give this a good mix. And I know you thought the egg yolk was the surprise secret ingredient, which it kind of is, but it's also the cheese. And my hope was those two ingredients would do the same sort of thing here that they do in the Caesar dressing, which is to add richness and savoriness. And that's it. Once our marinade's been thoroughly whisked, we'll go ahead and introduce about 2.5 pounds of boneless, skinless chicken thighs. Or of course the chicken parts of your choice. Okay, I cannot think of a chicken part that wouldn't be good, marinated in this and then grilled. But anyway, I went with a very user-friendly boneless, skinless thigh. And please note, we don't just toss all these in and give everything a mix, since chicken parts in general, and thighs in particular, are famous for their nooks and crannies. So by tossing these one at a time, we can make sure we're getting full coverage. And then once this step has been accomplished, we have a couple different ways we can go. Okay, we could just throw some plastic over the top and pop this in the fridge as is. And I do that a lot of the times, but I'm not going to do it this time. Okay, I'm actually going to transfer these into a zip top bag, since that bowl was kind of big, and these are going to be in the fridge a relatively long time. Plus, besides being more compact, by using the bag and sealing it up nice and tight, every piece of chicken is going to get the same amount of marinade, especially if we remember to flip this bag over a couple times while it's marinating. And yes, I always put this in a bowl, since if you don't, it will definitely leak, and if you do, it never leaks. That is just how the universe works. But no matter which way we go, we're going to want to pop that in the fridge for between 8 and 18 hours. Okay, you could probably go a little shorter, but I think this recipe definitely benefits from a longer marination. And in case you're keeping score at home, I did mine for exactly 14 hours before I went outside and placed these over some beautifully hot coals. And I'm not sure if it really matters, but I generally start with a smooth side down. And then once I have those on the grill and arranged as evenly and uniformly as I can, my game plan is to give that first side about 4 or 5 minutes, at which point I'll flip them over, and then give the second side about 4 or 5 minutes. But after the first flip, if I see that some spots are hotter than others, which is usually pretty easy to notice, I have no problem changing positions and moving the ones that are over hot spots and replacing them with pieces that might have been on spots that weren't as hot. And of course, this is one of the challenges when you cook over charcoal, which definitely, absolutely, without a doubt gives you better flavor. But the amount of heat being produced around the grill is not going to be uniform, especially on a windy day like this. But anyway, to finish up going over the game plan, once we've grilled those for about 4 minutes per side, rearranging them as we see fit, I like to start just randomly flipping them over, back and forth from one side to another, continuing to move those around the grill from hot spots to cool spots and cool spots to hot spots, until they're as uniformly browned as possible, but more importantly, cooked all the way through. And by the way, that initial 4 minutes per side is probably not going to be enough to cook it all the way through. The total cooking time is going to be around 8 minutes per side, but that is just a wild guess. So use a thermometer if you need to, and get these to about 150 internal temp. Or if you've grilled for about 50 years, you can just tell by giving them the old poka-poka. And when they firm up and spring back to the touch, they're usually done. And no, of course they don't all finish at the same time. That would be impossible. So when you feel one's done, pull it off. And then keep turning and tossing, moving and rearranging, until eventually they're all perfectly cooked. Or as close as you can get. All right, that's all we ever ask. Oh, and the first time I did this, I was pretty sure it was going to taste great. But because of the egg and the cheese, my fear was these were going to turn black on the grill, like in 2 minutes. But I was very happily surprised when they didn't. And they actually cooked up to a beautiful golden brown, which you're going to get a much better look at when I pull the last of these off the grill and head back inside where the lighting's a little better. Oh yeah, check it out. That is some nice looking grilled chicken. But hold on, it's going to look better, since of course we're going to drizzle over those accumulated juices. All right, if you throw those away, we cannot be friends. And I would really like to stay friends. And that's it for a couple final touches. I'm going to drizzle over some olive oil. And in America, people think of olive oil as oil. But in many parts of the world, it's more of a sauce, which is how we're using it here. And then I finished up with a little bit of freshly chopped Italian parsley, mostly for the contractually obligated pictures. And after taking a few of those, I grabbed a fork and knife and dug in. And that, my friends, really is a profoundly delicious grilled chicken. And yes, it's very garlicky, but it's not very anchovy-y. Okay, if you're not a fan of those, don't be scared. You're not really going to be tasting anchovies here. And we use them here like one would use salt in a brine. And they've seasoned this chicken in a very savory way, which of course works perfectly with the tang from the lemon and the mustard. And as predicted, that egg yolk and Parmesan added a little extra richness. And besides all the obvious deliciousness, the texture and juiciness you get here is really impressive. So I'm a huge fan of this technique. And I'm also a huge fan of just eating things right off the platter. But so that I could get some different pictures and also share one serving suggestion, I decided to put a couple pieces in a lettuce cup with some shredded lettuce and some fire-roasted red peppers. And I served that very simply with a little more Meyer lemon. And I went full keto. And yes, I should have just done one piece of chicken, but I thought two would look better in the pictures. And if you're thinking that does look nice, but I bet he wishes this was on a toasted roll, piled up with a bunch of complimentary fixins, well, you know what? You know me so well, because I would. But anyway, I showed you the hard part. I'm sure you'll figure out the easy part, which is how to enjoy this. I mean, you are, after all, the St. Bernard, of whether to go low carb. And of course, St. Bernard is the patron saint of grilling. Well, actually, it's candle making. But it kind of rhymed, and I figured it was close enough for YouTube. But anyway, the point is, once this is grilled, it is good in or on so many things, which is why I really do hope you give this a try soon. So please follow the links below for the ingredient amounts, a printable written recipe, and much more info as usual. And as always,